I've been asked by a lot of people, how do you become a photographer? How do you become a pro photographer? How can you make money at this business, at this crazy world that we call commercial photography? And I always end up with the same answer. And if you watch my YouTube channel over the next year, you'll probably see me dress this several times because I think it's so important. To be a photographer means first you have to be a photographer. Now, what does that mean? Right over there in the corner, I have a beautiful tenor saxophone. It's really nice. It's an old Conn jazz tenor saxophone. Really nice. Am I a saxophonist? Oh, hell no. I can play a few tunes on it. Probably not good enough to, play in front of people, but I enjoy it. I am not a saxophonist. Out yonder, there's a piano. I've been sitting at that piano, playing on those keys for 40 years. Am I a pianist? I don't think so. My friends like to hear me play a ditty here or two, and I'm pretty good, but I'm self-taught with that. I went to music school and learned, how to, I was a drummer. So, I didn't really have to know music at all. Anyway, I was a music student, so I had to learn to play, chords on the piano. I had to learn voice harmony and all those kinds of things. And I really, really loved it. But I was kind of not really interested in playing, quote, piano music. I remember we had these electric pianos and had the little earphones, and there'd be like, I think 16 of them in this classroom, and the teacher was up there, and we were playing boom bo do do dee boom 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 bo bo do dee boom, and he would click in to listen to us play and go bo do 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 dee 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 dee. I go, and then he'd click out, and I'd be going, because I didn't give a rat's ass about playing Bach or Mozart or any of that shit. It wasn't what I was interested in. Whenever he wasn't looking, I got cheat sheets of Miles Davis there trying to figure out, bebop. Doesn't make me a pianist, even though I could probably sit in and jam for a little while, as long as the tunes weren't too fast, too hard, had too many freaking changes. I mean, I could handle Watermelon Man and that shit. But that doesn't make me a pianist. First, to be a pianist, to be a piano player in a band, first you have to be a piano player, right? If you buy a cello and you want to be a cellist, first you have to be a cellist. That means you got to start from sounding like shit to being able to read music, to be able to interpret music, to be able to read, interpret, and watch the conductor out of one eye. It's a learning process. It's a long process. With photography, it just seems like, oh, I got a camera. I'm done. I'm done. I got the prerequisites. I'm good. Look, I got me a camera. Doesn't make you a photographer. You have to be that. You have to have visual literacy. You have to have a control over what you want to do visually. It's important to understand where you came from. I'm always shocked when I talk to photographers who don't know the history of photography. It's like young fashion photographer, and you go, yeah, you familiar with Peter Lindbergh? And they go, no. You familiar with Patrick Demarchelier? No. Irving Penn? No. Avedon? I think I heard that name. Joe McNally? Oh, yeah! That's fine. Nothing to take away from Joe McNally. Joe McNally's famous on the internet. Got to know where you came from. You got to know where you're going. And you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. Part of being a photographer is knowing where you came from. Is understanding whose butts were on the line for decades to get you to the point where you are right now. It's part of being a photographer. Understanding what the lenses do, understanding the emotional impact of a lens choice, the emotional impact of a hair light or a catch light, or side light versus front light, or softbox versus umbrella versus hard light versus a grid spot. All of those things are important. It's being in charge of a set. You know, I don't like shooting on big sets. I've never liked shooting on big sets. I don't like it when there's a lot of people around. I just assume they get the fuck out of my studio and let me get on with my work. But sometimes you have to do that. It's knowing how to do that. That's part of being a photographer. Part of being a photographer is knowing how to follow instructions, create the images that you want to create that your client's going to love, and deliver them on time, budget, within the parameters of what they wanted. That's being a photographer. When you can pick up a camera and make the photograph you want to make under the circumstances presented to you, then you're a photographer. And I don't care if you make any money from it. I mean, I really don't. You're a photographer if you can use the tools. If I could sit here and grab that saxophone over there and take a piece of sheet music and sit it in front of me and just, you know, blast through it, man, nuances and everything, I think I could call myself a saxophone player. But since I have to grab that sheet music, put it here, and then woodshed it for an hour and a half to try to, you know, figure out how I'm going to get that finger to move to that key, I'm not a saxophone player. I play at it. That's what I say about the piano. I don't play the piano, I play at the piano. Heavy emphasis on the word play. Because it's just a blast for me. And I hit a lot of wrong notes, and I don't care. I always remind my wife, when I hit the wrong notes, I remind my wife what Miles Davis said. In jazz, there are no wrong notes. Except when you can obviously tell that there are. You know, cameras are kind of, you know, being a photographer is kind of like jazz with a camera. We're not going to riff on that today, so don't, you know, those of you who have heard me talk about jazz with a camera, don't get your panties in a wad there, because we ain't going to talk about that today. We're pushing up 8 minutes. I want to keep these videos here on YouTube under 10 minutes if I can, because little snippets of information are more important. So in order to be a photographer, you have to be a photographer. And I think being a photographer is more than just taking photographs. It's from inside. It's from the gut. It's what you live, seek, see, breathe. It's everything. And until you do that, you know, I mean, my wife's a photographer. My daughter's a photographer. They took some great pictures over at Ireland on their camera phones. They're really lovely pictures. They really are. That's fine. If you asked either one of them if they're photographers, they go, no, we just took pictures on our camera phones. Okay, that's fine. Every child in America learns to write in school. Probably every child in the world who goes to school learns to write in school. How many of them become writers? Not very many. It's a whole new different world out there. So if you want to be a photographer, be a photographer. And I'll see you tomorrow.